Greetings, Andy here again, another video. As well as collecting records, I'm a bit of a geography nerd. I do like a map, and I thought I could do something here and sort of combine them. I'm calling this my virtual band world tour. Now don't worry, I know I do live records, but this isn't about live records. It's really about using the maps and geography to showcase some records I like, basically. So what I'm doing here is picking places, towns in different parts of the world where a particular band comes from. So I either, where the band was formed, or where it's predominantly a vehicle for a person, where they were born. I'm sort of going to go round the world in several legs, and I'm starting at home, so UK and Ireland. And then I thought, hang on a minute, there's another biggish island in the middle of the Atlantic which I need to include. So I'm including Iceland in this. So we're going Great Britain, Ireland and Iceland together. Now I'm going to try and make sure I pick at least, where there's a country and I have some records for it, or a record, then I'll pick that. In this case, I've got to limit things because I'm going to stick to 10 to 12 records just in the interest of time. So here I'm going to go to Ireland, and then I'm going to head off to Iceland, and then come back to the island of Great Britain. So we've got Scotland, Wales and England, and England is significantly bigger in terms of population and number of bands and so on. So I'm going to sort of regionalise England, and we're going to be starting in Dublin. So we've arrived in Dublin, and no, it's not U2. I don't have any U2, funnily enough. It's a much more modern band, Fontaines DC. So these are current. I really like them. They're sort of post-punk, really. They're not as shouty as some of the current punk bands like Idols and so on. They're much more musical. This is their second studio LP. They've had 3 in total, released in 2019, 2020 and 2021. So this is the middle one, released in 2020, and it's A Hero's Death. One of the things I'm trying to do on this is avoid, as far as possible, sort of repeating LPs that I've sort of covered sometime on a video, and I have mentioned before their 2021 album Skinty Fear, which I think is brilliant. This is a really good album. Probably not quite as good as Skinty Fear, but really good anyway. It's got some great tracks on here. I Don't Belong, Love Is the Main Thing, which is on radio quite a lot. Televised Mine, A Lucid Dream. They're all really good. And the singer, I've got copious notes here because I might lose my way otherwise. Who is called Grian Chatton. I love his voice. He's got that sort of Dublin drawl, and I really like it. There you go. So that's Dublin. So from Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland, we head to Northern Ireland. To Londonderry, not Belfast, and the reason we're going with Londonderry is it was the birthplace of one Neil Hannon, aka the Divine Comedy, and this is his Absent Friends, and again his sort of opus major is Fin de Sequel, which came out in 1998, I think, but I've covered that fairly recently. So this is the other one. It's the other one I have on vinyl. I have the one in between them on CD, but and this is a really nice album. It's beautifully presented. This is a reissue. I have it on CD from when it was released, and he supposedly was did this after having discovered and been inspired by Rufus Wainwright. And his previous album to this was quite much heavier sort of guitar bass. So this is a much more gentler sort of singer-songwriter theme. Not so much guitar, but piano and strings and stuff. It's a beautiful, gentle album. Neil Hannon is a clever guy. I think whilst he was born in Londonderry, he moved subsequently, and I believe he now lives in the countryside near Dublin. Apparently wrote the theme tune to the magnificent and very, very possibly my favourite sitcom, Father Ted. And also appeared in one of the episodes apparently. So that was something off the bucket list. Most of these are on just plain black vinyl, and as there it says it was written between 2001 and 2003. Yeah, Absent Friends. It's a single LP on black vinyl. There's only one coloured vinyl, so I won't be splashing that. So. And of course, it can only be Cigar Ross. But the question was, which Cigar Ross album do I present? Because I've covered quite a lot of them. My favourite ones are more in the sort of post rock early phase that they had. But I'm picking one now, much later, 2012, and it is the album Valtteri. Picking this for a number of reasons. One of the things I'm trying to do here is cover all the decades, and I didn't have. Whilst I got quite a lot in the 2000s, not many in the 2010s, but this one is. Valtteri is a beautiful album. It's their 6th studio album. They produce some live stuff and soundtrack stuff in between, and this really they sort of have left behind those post rock. Influences at this stage. It's much gentler. It's got real ambient tones pretty much on every track. Though unlike their recent album Atta, it's much more focused. It doesn't that tends to meander a bit in my humble opinion. This one doesn't. It's much more focused, and is an extremely good album. It's a double, but it's not that long. It's only about 55 minutes long, so it's only a bit more than a single, and is a beautifully musical album. So that's there. So where next? Well, we're heading to Scotland. And Glasgow. Now. I'm fairly well known for being very into Mogwai, and I have all of their studio albums, but that would be too easy. I've covered lots of them in the past, and we're going from one essentially post-rock band to another. So we're not doing Mogwai. Instead, we're going to get loaded. And into the 90s, and Primal Scream's magnificent Screamadelica from 1991. Oh, what an album this was, and great artwork on it as well. Not only that fabulous splodgy face, sun face, but also some great great photograph of the band playing there. All the track list on the back. It's a double. This was a 2015 reissue. I think, somewhat amazingly, I picked this up around that time in Sainsbury's of all places. So if you're watching this from outside the UK, Sainsbury's is one of the major supermarkets, and they had a little spell where they were selling vinyl records. I don't think they do anymore. So such a fabulous set list, track list on this. Moving on Up, Higher Than the Sun, Come Together, Loaded, with those sort of fabulous samples, and there's a dub symphony in 2 parts of Higher Than the Sun. So fabulous album. It's as I say, it's a double, just black vinyl. So from Scotland we head south into England, and as I mentioned in the intro, we're sort of breaking England up between regions, and starting in the northwest. Now, the northwest of England, you've got Manchester, you've got Liverpool, and plenty of other towns. And we are heading to Bury. And Bury is the home of the band Elbow, one of my favourite bands, one I was very into in the OOs, and saw quite a lot. I must have seen them about 5 or 6 times, sometimes supporting other bands, but mostly leading. I've got quite a few of their albums. I've got a greatest hits on vinyl, and their last album. No, I've got about 3 on vinyl. I really like their early stuff. Their more well-known albums are probably sort of later on, and they won the Mercury Music Prize with Seldom Seen Kid, I think it was, in around 08 or 07. But the album I'm going to cover here is their second studio album, Cast of Thousands. This, as I say, second one, and this came out in 2003. And I saw them a couple of times in 2003 when they were touring this, and I just really like it. It's got some great standout tracks on there: Fugitive Motel, Grace Under Pressure. Those are superb. Also, Fallen Angel. It's just a lovely album. This is nicely presented. It's a fairly recent reissue. I had it on CD at the time, and it's a relatively short album. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's just on black vinyl. So from the northwest, or is it that way as you're looking at it, to the northeast. So this is, where we've got towns like Newcastle, cities like Newcastle, Leeds, Sheffield. There's plenty of bands, great bands from the northeast of England, and I'm heading for Wakefield, which is a town just south of Leeds, and it is the birthplace of one Bill Nelson, of a strong solo career after this, but my favourite era was Bebop Deluxe, and this is my favourite Bebop Deluxe album, Sunburst Finish, which came out in 76, I think, was it? You look at my notes, yeah, 76. And this is a truly, to me, this is a true all-killer album. You've got Fair Exchange, Heavenly Homes, Ships in the Night, Crying to the Sky, Sleep That Burns, and side 2, Beauty Secrets, Life in the Air Age, Like an Old Blues, Crystal Gazing, and it goes out with Blazing Apostles. Such a great album. And this is an original, and it's in the original Harvest label from the mid-70s. So now we're going to East Anglia. I started at this. This is quite a late change, which I've put on only in the last few days. I started out thinking Cambridge, and then there was a sort of an ooh between Pink Floyd, who come from Cambridge originally, and a much more modern band of Black Country New Road. But I've covered sort of both of them quite a lot, and I would end up repeating something. A recent find is the 90s in Great Yarmouth, and that is a band called Katherine Wheel, and this is their third studio album, Happy Days, which was produced in 1995. And Katherine Wheel are led by Rob Dickinson, who actually is the cousin of Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden fame. And this is their third studio album, beautiful artwork by Storm Thorgerson of Hypnosis, Pink Floyd fame. It's a double. The standout track on here to me this is a great title. Is the last one on side 2 is called "Eat My Dust, You Insensitive Fuck." And that's sort of something. Even if we haven't quite voiced it in those words, we've all felt like that about somebody in the past. And that album, that track, has the most beautiful, magnificent harmonica playing on it, and the harmonica is played by Mark Feltham. And Mark Feltham played harmonica on the last 2 Talk albums. They're seminal, Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock, and the harmonica on there is superb. I looked him up, and he goes back a long way. He played, he's got his own sort of blues band, but he goes back to Rory Gallagher days. So he was played harmonica on Rory Gallagher's album. So magnificent. Great album that I've recently found, and it's as I mentioned, it's a double. It's just on black vinyl. And now we head to the Midlands, and this really is one of the hardest ones to find. I come from the Midlands. Well, I wasn't born there, but I grew up there. And it's normally split. You usually have East or West Midlands, North and South. I'm just take it as a whole. Which is really difficult because there's some great bands in the whole of the Midlands, particularly in Black Country and Birmingham and that sort of whole area of the West Midlands. But if you took the population of the whole of the Midlands, north, south, east, and west, it's about 10 million, which is sort of like double the size of Scotland nearly. So, and there's such a lot of bands there. I could have, you could. In a way, I could have chosen Led Zeppelin, for example, because half of Led Zeppelin came from there, even if the other half came from London. So just so many. And I'm going hometown, back to the 70s when I was growing up, and Electric Light Orchestra and their magnificent Out of the Blue, a true classic. 1977, you've got Sweet Talking Woman, Mr. Blue Sky, Birmingham Blues, those classics. I think when this album first came out, the original reissue, it had some sort of foldy up model of the spaceship, but this doesn't. It's an early one. It's an early reissue, I think, and it's in blue vinyl. It's one I bought at a record fair few years ago, and it's, as I say, it's a double in blue vinyl, and that's ELO. So from Birmingham, the Midlands, we head sort of southwest a little bit to Wales, well, west to Wales, but we're going south in Wales. Cardiff, and I'm going to stay in the 70s, and the rock band Budgy and their album Squark. This is quite nice. I'm sort of always Budgy are one of those sort of bands I wasn't really into at the time, and I'm not quite sure why. And this is an album, a reissue I picked up relatively recently, to be honest. And it's got the magnificent artwork by Roger Dean there. We talked about great names for tracks. This has got a cracker on it too. The very fragrant Hot as a Docker's Armpit closes off side 1. That's Budgy Squark. From Wales, we're just heading across the Bristol Channel to the southwest, and this is another region where we could have picked. There were lots of choices. Bristol. My original thought was Massive Attack or maybe even Portishead, but I've covered them quite a lot. And then I thought, well, also Dorset, and Dorset, Polly Harvey comes from, as does Robert Fripp. Lots of choice there, PJ Harvey and King Crimson. But I'm heading for the seaside town in Devon of Teignmouth. And Teignmouth is where Muse comes from. And I love Muse. Saw them 2 or 3 times in the OOs, great band. And this is their second studio album, which I had on CD at the time, which came out in 2001. And this was the 20th anniversary remix, which was released in 2021, 20 years. Obviously, another all killer. It's got great, great tracks on here. It is my favourite Muse album, though. There are 2 or 3 others which come close. Newborn Bliss, Space Dementia, Hyper Music, Plug-in Baby, Citizen Arrays, Microcuts, Screen Age, Dark Shines. A brilliant cover of Feeling Good, Futurism and Megalomania. There's not a duff track on this album. It's nice artwork as well. They've changed it slightly for the reissue and all the lyrics inside. And it's just on black vinyl, double. So from southwest England to southeast England, and again lots of choice here because it's a big area, big population surrounding London. So we've got places like Brighton. There's Kent, Canterbury, and Essex, though arguably that's East Anglia. But I'm going with Surrey. And this is not far from where I live actually, and it's the West Surrey town of Woking. Now my original thought with Woking when I chose it was the jam, but again I've covered the jam fairly recently, and then I didn't really notice this, but I discovered that born in a village just outside, which is pretty well next door to Woking, was Peter Gabriel. And that gives me a chance to include the 80s because I have very few albums from the 80s. I sort of pretty well dipped out. But I do have his 5th solo album called So. And I argue it's not my favourite necessarily, but it's probably his best. So this has, it opens up with Red Rain, goes on to Sledgehammer, which was famous for that stock photography video they did on MTV at the time. Don't Give Up. It was released in 1986, and funnily enough, it was his 5th studio album, but the first, which wasn't self-titled because all 4 of the previous one were called Peter Gabriel. So there we go. From Woking, just outside London, we head into London to finish. So our 12th stop on our tour of UK and Ireland is obviously London. And for my London, again, huge city, lots and lots of choices. I ummed and ahed a lot about this, but in the end, I decided to go for Blur. Came out in 1998 and it's 13. This is probably my second favourite Blur album after the one previous to this, which was their eponymous Blur. But again, I covered that in a video a little while ago. So this has some wonderful songs on it. It's another all killer. The side one, Tender, Bugman and Coffee and TV, Swamp Song, Trailer Park, and it's the penultimate track is I think probably my favourite track of all Blur tracks, and that's No Distance Left to Run. Beautiful album. And double on black vinyl. So that's our UK, Ireland and Iceland tour, leg 1 of our world tour. So where next? Well, the obvious thing to do will be to head across the Atlantic and cover North America, because obviously got lots of albums there. But I'm going to finish in North America, so I'm going to go the other way round. So across the English Channel next time, and we're going to do basically continental Europe, and there's some interesting stuff here. You know, the more I think about it, the more quite excited I am about this. See you next time on leg 2 of my virtual band world tour, where we'll be touring Europe. Thanks for watching. Cheers.